Here we are with Lukas Schor, the co-founder of Safe. Lukas, it's so great to have you here on the Defiant podcast.
So great to be here.
Today was a big day for Safe, the token of the famous multi-sig wallet on Ethereum became transferable for the first time. So we'll definitely talk about that. And for just quick background for everyone listening, Safe is a huge part of Ethereum and Ethereum EVM chains related infrastructure. The wallets are holding $100 billion in assets. There's over 8 million of Safe accounts. So really interesting to hear what the story behind Safe is and the plans going forward. So if we can start at the beginning, I'd love to hear the founding story, where this all began.
When it started, we definitely didn't expect that Safe would become as ubiquitous as it is today, because originally Safe being a spin-off out of Gnosis. Gnosis started off as itself a spin-off from Consensus, as a project that wanted to build prediction markets. So prediction markets is a way to financially incentivize people surfacing their information in order to have the most accurate prediction of a certain outcome. So Gnosis wanting to build this as a primitive on Ethereum. They did an ICO in 2017, and they had this fundraise, and they had a lot of digital assets they had to secure. And back then, like the entire self-custody infrastructure was very immature. So they had to build their own solution to fit their own needs, as they didn't want to have just all these digital assets on a single private key, on a ledger wallet even. They wanted to have a more secure system. So Gnosis built a tool for themselves, which was the Gnosis multi-signature wallet, and used that for the proceedings from the ICO. And they just happened to open source that, and everyone in the ecosystem started using it. And suddenly there were feature requests coming in. People wanted to have a hosted version of this solution, and a team formed within Gnosis that then was answering these feature requests. It was continuing maintaining the multi-signature wallet, and it became the de facto standard how projects back then, especially ICO projects, were securing their funds. And that was then the starting point to say, like, there's something much bigger there. Let's bring the value that we can bring to projects, to ICO projects, to everyone. And that's when Safe started as a general purpose smart account, which brings both security and UX benefits then to everyone in Web3. And that was then the journey. And from then the team grew, and at some point it was outgrowing Gnosis in a sense, and the decision was made to spin it off in its own project.
Wow, I love that story. I didn't realize that Gnosis was a prediction market project at first. Are they still building that?
Funnily enough, like Gnosis, essentially Stefan and Martin, who are the co-founders of Gnosis, they have many ideas what's missing in the ecosystem, and they sometimes build something for themselves, and sometimes they build stuff that's valuable to others. But they happen to like build up a lot of teams, a lot of projects, because they are in a sense ahead of the curve, and they see what will be important. Similar also how they started CowSwap, which is another spin-off from Gnosis, where they were thinking about MEV and the damage it does to the ecosystem way before it was even a term. And they started building up the team then, and at some point the CowSwap project existed and it got spun out of. And so a lot of things were built within Gnosis, and pretty much everything worked except prediction markets, which was the original vision. I mean, there's still a value of prediction markets, but I would argue it's still quite early to see that come through. And so nowadays, Gnosis is, in a sense, a company builder. So again, starting new projects, growing them, spinning them off. But it's also its own L1. So it's a sister chain to Ethereum, which very much follows the Ethereum roadmap, but is in a way, it goes after the philosophy that we need more neutral block space so we can scale vertically via L2s, but we also need to scale horizontally, which was originally the vision of sharding, but Gnosis in a sense goes after that. And yeah, there's a bunch more. I could talk for hours what's all part of that ecosystem.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But yeah, such an interesting founding story for Safe. And how about your own background and how you came into the project?
So my background is in economics. But I was always leaning very much to technology and what it can enable for people, and actually how technology goes through these curves where there's some innovation point and new tech is formed, but it's super inaccessible to people. And only then, once there's improvements, iterations on cost, on user experience, and so on, it really unleashes its potential. And so I just saw cryptocurrency and this entire space in the 2016-17 area. And I saw this is very much, we went through this initial process of technology innovation, but it still needs a lot of work to really unfold its potential because it was super inaccessible. Arguably, it still is. And so that's when I wanted to join a team that was really building in the long run in the space. I joined Gnosis and then took over the leadership there for the Safe project. Because I saw this really much as an important building block that when we cannot make people trust their interactions with Web3, be it because of security or usability reasons, we will not be able to actually bring the value of Web3 to people.
Awesome. Definitely we'll get into this mission for Safe. But first, I'd love to speak about the very latest news, the Safe token, which, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, became transferable today. And at the Defiant, we just reported it's trading at a bit over 1 billion of market cap with fully diluted valuation of around 2.7 billion. So why did you guys make this decision of waiting about 2 years to make the token transferable?
It's definitely a very unique way to have a token come to the market because, even the term transferability in terms of a token is often not used because a token is just transferable by definition. So we intentionally had a token initially distributed to the community, to users of Safe and builders, but wanted to ensure that the decision to make it transferable, to basically open up the project to everyone, was done by this very community. So we had the token deployed as a regular ERC20 token, but with a pause function. So this is like a one-way street. The community can decide once to make it transferable, then cannot be paused again, and then gave that ability to unpause to the Safe DAO, which is in a way the combination of the Safe community, and then had conversations in this forum on when should this happen. And so it was very much a community-driven process. And it happened that 1.5 years ago, that was when the initial distribution was, there was a very early vote, should the token be transferable? And like probably surprisingly to a lot, the community decided against. And there's a bunch of reasons that led to that, but in a way that the main reasoning was that there were certain things that needed to be completed, that we want to open up Safe as a community to a bigger crowd. So that's around governance of Safe DAO. We see a lot of DAOs failing because they open up too fast. They don't have the processes that really allow to manage like a lot of community participation. They are easily, especially DAO treasuries, are easily drained, so to say, by people making random proposals, and that's because of this lack of structure. And so that's what was one key thing, that we should set up a very sophisticated governance framework that allows really to scale the Safe DAO in the long run, as well as some other milestones that were completed over the last months. So that was again very community driven, how these milestones were defined and also completed. And now, about a month ago, there was another vote. Should now be the moment where the token becomes transferable? And this time the community said yes with a big majority. And even the execution of that. So that's something we use our own tooling there as well, Safe, where like it's a snapshot space where the voting is happening, but then via an oracle, it actually gets transferred into an on-chain transaction, which then calls this unpause function and is making the token transferable. So we were also dogfooding our own solution there.
So interesting. So was I know you mentioned there were a few milestones to reach, but was the main thing that you were looking for, was it to have more structure around the governance process before you made the token transferable?
That was definitely a key one. Another one was that we wanted to, as a community, form a consensus what's actually our North Star, because that's also something that a lot of DAOs struggle with, because there's so many opinions where the community should be heading and what it's really about that kind of combines us. And for Safe, this was done in a constitution that was written together with the community on like what Safe is about. And this is especially critical because Safe, like it has so many forms. Like it's in a way like a user front end with Safe Wallet, but it's also very much infrastructure. As a lot of projects use Safe under the hood, it's used in a context of DAOs as a DAO tooling. It's used in an enterprise context as a way to map hierarchies within a company on-chain processes. It's also used by retail for regular wallets, for trading and so on. And so that we had to find this combining element, which was about smart accounts and enabling smart accounts for everyone. And thus this being like a community that really cares about making smart accounts the default user account on Web3. And so that like it's a quite lengthy constitution that also goes into like what's the role of the token within that context, what's the relationship to the ecosystem, so to builders on this infrastructure and so on. And that was another key element. The other ones were that there was like a user airdrop, which was partially not claimed, so a few of the users didn't claim, and there was a consensus around what should be done with the rest of these tokens. So there was like a second airdrop that came out of that, as well as the governance framework, which I mentioned, that gives some structure to the DAO and some discussions, which was then the final milestone on the token utility in the long run and aligning the Safe DAO behind that. And after these milestones were completed, then it was kind of the go-ahead for this transferability vote, which then happened last month.
Okay, so the North Star, you said account abstraction, kind of the default for Web3 wallets?
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah, I mean,
nice.
The idea really is that right now, especially on Ethereum, we use these private key accounts, these externally owned accounts, that's how they're called, and these are quite limited in their functionality because they really just define you have a private key and therefore you can do anything with an account. It's simple, but it's also quite limited because it also means when you don't have access to this private key, you can do nothing with the account. And if someone else gets the private key, they can do everything. So that's pretty much all the logic that's behind it. And account abstraction and smart accounts, the idea there is that we can make accounts programmable, leveraging smart contracts, and then we can have much more logic behind it that then leads to security and usability improvements, be it multisig, be it passkeys, and like a bunch of other things that can be enabled through smart accounts.
I want to talk more about smart accounts, but just to wrap up on the token, you mentioned there was also discussion around what the utility of the token will be. So can you explain what the token will be used for?
So that's twofold. One is utility right now, and one is utility how it develops over time. Right now, it was just formalized that governance is a key part of the community. A key part of the token utility, because we have this ambition to make Safe the underlying infrastructure for many different verticals in Web3 and make it ubiquitous. And there's a lot of interest then to forming this shared protocol, this shared infrastructure, so governance is key. The second part for today's utility is activity rewards program that was formalized by the Safe DAO. And that's really a way to say we're going to incentivize through this program people moving to smart accounts. So actually having certain rewards. We just launched this today with some partners, Eigenlayer, Wormhole, but it was formed that this is like a way to create a movement, really, to make a statement as well. And there the token plays a role, as it's by locking or staking the token, you can get additional rewards of that program. You can boost your points that you get there. That's today. And then there's like a more long-term vision then for the Safe token, as we are entering a lot of opportunities with smart accounts, like bigger protocols that can be built around the core Safe smart account. And there the token is, there's certain fields there that are just defined as strategic focuses for the Safe token. One key one is around cross-chain, as there's opportunities with smart accounts to really streamline the cross-chain experience, where it doesn't matter what network you interact with or where you have your assets, you can abstract this away from the user. And that's something where there's a bunch of these solutions out there, and all of them somehow need to navigate the space between security, trustlessness, speed, and cost. And the token there is a way to balance that, because it enables incentives, enables like optimistic execution of transactions and stuff like that. So that's one key part. But there were others around better security enforcement in smart accounts. But I mean, that's maybe too much for a podcast. I really recommend to just read through the documentation there, because it's there's quite some thoughts going into that.
So I guess like right now, main use is governance and the new rewards program, which is used to incentivize the opening of new smart accounts. Is that right?
It's a user initiative, and it's also an ecosystem initiative. So the idea being that anyone who builds on Safe smart accounts also plugs into the same program. So it's not just a program that's attached to one user interface, but it's like a Nest wallet, a CoinShift, like different solutions that build on Safe also benefit from that program.
Have you heard about Safe? They're not just pioneers in crypto custody, but they're also leading the way with smart accounts. With Safe, managing your crypto is smarter and safer than ever. They've secured over $100 billion in total value and are available in more than 15 networks. Safe is also revolutionizing the industry with their full compatibility with ERC 4337, making it super easy to integrate wallets into your daily crypto activities. And for crypto enthusiasts, Safe has something special: the Safe Pass Activity Rewards Program. Launching soon, it's a fantastic way to engage and earn rewards. So what are you waiting for? Visit safe.global, sign up for the Safe Pass Activity Rewards Program, and secure your spot at SafeCon during the Berlin Blockchain Week. Be part of the transition that's setting a new standard in the world of custody. You touched a bit on this, but if you could expand on why is it so important for smart accounts to be at the core of Web3? I mean, what's wrong with the externally owned accounts?
There's a lot wrong with them. I think generally we reach a cap, like how many people we can convince to write down 12 words on a piece of paper and store it securely, so that they make sure that no one else finds this piece of paper, but they themselves find it when they need it. And that's one of the key problems of having private key accounts, because they are limited to this one private key, and you need to somehow manage this and securely store this private key. And with smart accounts, you can open up the design space massively, like what you can do in order to have like secure yet usable self-custodial solutions. One example is just multisig. It's often seen as something that teams use, because obviously if you have multiple people managing funds together, like they have their own keys, and that makes sense. But it's also very much something that anyone as an individual should be using, because it's also how we use like traditional financial applications today. Like as soon as you have certain security critical interactions, you usually have a two-factor authentication, which just makes sure that you don't have this single point of failure that then can be abused. And that's something with smart accounts you can implement, that you have different private keys on different devices, and you can sign when you do critical interactions. But that's just really the tip of the iceberg, because you can replace these regular private keys with special private keys, such as passkeys. So that's a type of private key that's not natively supported by, for example, the Ethereum blockchain, but through smart accounts, you can actually make possible that you can use passkeys to sign on chain. And that just is a major improvement, as passkeys is something that even like big companies like Apple and Google are pushing right now, and they're supported natively by any device such as iPhones and Macs.
So passkeys is just this number, like this, I don't know, 6-digit whatever number that you use?
No, passkeys is it's a private key type that usually for the user, they don't see anything of that, because it's usually just generated through the secure enclave of your device. And then you access it by scanning your face in Face ID or Touch ID or whatever. And then you just sign with your phone, and the phone becomes essentially a hardware wallet there, because they have a very secure way to store this passkey, which is not possible with regular private keys.
How would that work with a crypto wallet? Like, would you log into a wallet in the same way that you use your Face ID on a mobile phone?
Exactly. So that's the key thing, that it can make like a Web2-like experience, or just a very natural experience where you just download the wallet, you log in with Face ID, and you generated a private key under the hood, but the user shouldn't care. Like they just know they can trust Face ID to authenticate, and they can use that then to make on-chain transactions.
Interesting. So you never look at your private key phrase. You don't have to write down the words or anything like that. That means you just like connect your account with your fingerprint or your Face ID, or whatever form of ID you have.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting. That would really improve the UX. What needs to happen for this to be the default, you think, that the default wallet for Ethereum and other EVM chains?
I think what's happening right now is that we see there's this legacy user group that has been onboarded to the regular wallets that we know today, which have these EOAs, so externally owned accounts. But we have an opportunity now with L2s to really start from scratch, so to say, because the challenge is that most apps, especially on layer 1, they optimize for the current user rather than the future user. And it's very hard to then optimize for smart accounts if 90% of the users are using this legacy wallet. But we see L2s that say, we want a better user experience. We want to keep our users secure. Therefore, we optimize on smart accounts. And one of the recent ones that was announced is WorldCoin's WorldChain. So WorldCoin has its own L2 that they're working on. And as every WorldCoin user already today is a safe user because they build on safe, they will make every account there that they onboard to through the World app. They make a safe user on this L2, and then the entire application infrastructure ecosystem that's being built on that L2 will be very much optimized to smart accounts. And we see this, we see this as a trend of L2s optimizing for that. And at some point, we just onboard much more new people than there's legacy users, and then we will probably see a tipping point where we will generally move to smart accounts. And also, I mean, interestingly enough, we at some point anyways have to move. Like it's more a question of time, and that's very much agreement of the Ethereum ecosystem is that at some point with quantum computing progressing, like the current ways how wallets are created, these EOAs, which leverage ECDSA signatures, they will be broken. That's just nature taking its place in cryptography. Every crypto at some point will be broken, and ECDSA signatures is something that we can expect to happen within the next years. And then we need to move to smart accounts because they will enable better cryptographic primitives to be supported. And there's already plans being made, like emergency plans, to force upgrade every user to smart accounts. I hope we don't have to do this like emergency EAP or this Ethereum upgrade, but rather just convince through the benefits to get people over.
Oh, that's so interesting. A few follow-ups on that. I mean, the first is that quantum computing then makes the EOA accounts unsafe because, will they just be very easily hacked? Like, would the way to access them can be just like accessed by brute force using quantum computing?
Exactly. I mean, private keys, in a way, it's just a question like how much computing power can you throw at the problem. At some point, it makes technical and economic sense to do so because it gets feasible, and that with quantum computing will happen for the regular ECDSA private keys that we currently use. Yeah, it's hard to say, is it going to be the next 1-2 years? Is it going to be the next 5-10 years? But it's definitely happening in the foreseeable future. And
smart accounts can't be hacked or broken into by quantum computers in the same way, I guess? I mean, you can also use smart accounts with these legacy private key types, of course, and then it's no different. But because smart accounts are programmable account, you can reprogram them, you can do a key rotation. So you swap your current key with a new key that then uses another cryptographic curve. It's a more secure way to then authenticate yourself when it's needed. We just create more flexibility by using smart accounts because we can use like Schnorr signatures or any other more secure crypto then to authenticate. Interesting. Okay, and then the other follow-up I had is what needs to be optimized for dApps and protocols to use smart accounts? Because you said, right now dApps on Ethereum are not optimizing for smart accounts; they're optimizing for the current user, which uses the traditional private key EOA type of account, but you're seeing a lot of potential and opportunity in the new layer 2s that are optimizing for this. But why do you need a specific set of features, or why do you need there to be some sort of optimization for this adoption to happen? Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's primarily that applications currently limit themselves what they can do because they optimize for these old wallets. And things that just work with smart accounts that current wallets cannot support is, for example, batch transactions. It's a quite simple one where you go maybe to a decentralized exchange and you want to do a swap. Right now, often the user experience looks like you have to do one step, so an approval to get started, but then you have to do another step to actually do the swap. And that just means the user has to go through the signing flow twice, and that just doesn't feel natural. With more complex DeFi interactions, it might be then 5, 7, 10 steps that the user has to go through. And with smart accounts, you can just do them in one batch transaction because that's enabled through smart accounts, and it's just a one-click user experience for users. Another thing that can be leveraged with smart accounts is sponsored transactions. So
we can move away from the paradigm where users have to pay gas fees to interact with applications, but it could be an L2 itself, or it could be an application itself that says, we see enough value to having this user interact with our solution, so we just sponsor for that interaction. So it's the same logic where the user that goes to the website doesn't pay for the AWS cost at the core when you open that website, but it's actually the provider that pays for that, and that makes sense in Web 2. So we can also bring this to Web3 ecosystems. That's the two primary ones, but there's also a long tail of things depending on the application that just makes the user experience better, be it a session key, for example. That's something that's enabled through smart accounts where you can say you authenticate an application once per session and you sign with your wallet, but then afterwards you don't have to sign with every on-chain interaction again. You just give certain permission. Say in a game, you just say, I can buy in-game assets up to this amount, and if it's not surpassing that amount, you don't have to sign, but it's just authenticated from the beginning, and that just streamlines so much of the user experience. And then, you have many of these use cases for different applications.
I mean, all of that makes so much sense, and it does sound like a much better user experience. But I guess, right now, Ethereum projects have to look at this trade-off of saying, okay, we can offer these very useful features, but make our users, have to have a wallet that is not the most common for individual users, or offer a worse experience, but at least we know that most users coming to our app will have the wallet needed for this. So right now, Ethereum projects are just going with the worst experience, but optimizing for the wallet that most people will have, rather than kind of making their users change their wallet.
I mean, to be fair, there is a lot of applications that also start optimizing for smart accounts already, especially decentralized exchanges. CowSwap is a big one. They leverage smart accounts quite heavily, or like wallets that just say we want to provide something like passkeys to onboard users, and they do that already today. But yeah, it's this trade-off. Like either you have to optimize for the old users, or onboard people to something new, or maybe provide two different experiences for two different user groups. But that's then a lot of development overhead for the team.
All right. Yeah, it's a tough one. And for you as like one wallet provider among many different wallet providers, and right now even non-wallet projects are launching their own wallets, like Uniswap recently, and other dexes have done so as well. How do you view competition in the wallet space? And I know kind of your main thing is smart accounts, but I guess that's something that other wallet providers can also start providing. So yeah, what's your take on this kind of increasingly crowded space for wallets?
I think in the long run, Safe shouldn't be a wallet provider, but more a wallet infrastructure provider. And arguably it is already this way, because just the pure number of users onboarding to Safe, they don't come from the Safe wallet front end itself, but from other front ends. There's like a Dracula app, which is a social app recently blew off on Base. It's like a TikTok on Web3 thing. They use Safe to have a streamlined onboarding experience, and they onboarded like 50, 100K sort of users. And then WorldCoin, which onboarded millions of users, and you have a bunch of these examples, 200 projects right now building on Safe. And often users don't know that there's Safe actually under the hood, and they don't need to know. That's the same way you probably interacted a few times per day with Linux in the past, but you didn't know that there's actually Linux running there. And that's a nice thing, because it enables Safe to become this composable wallet infrastructure under the hood of many solutions, and then just makes it easier also for different wallets or applications to leverage account abstraction and smart accounts without doing too much themselves.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So the thinking is you become infrastructure so that wallet providers use Safe on kind of in the as their rails.
Yeah, because really what Safe is about is to make every account a smart account. And we know we cannot do this by providing a solution for retail traders and a solution for DAO tooling and something else for treasury management. Like, there needs to be a big ecosystem that's targeting different use cases and different user groups. And we just want to be the underlying infrastructure for these different solutions and be the shared component, which also has a side effect that smart accounts become portable between the solutions, which is something that is key about Web3, that you onboard to one wallet, but you can use the same account in a different wallet and you're not locked into one platform. And that's something that Safe wants to maintain by being a very neutral underlying infrastructure and maintaining the composability and portability of smart accounts.
DeFi Saver is an all-in-one management app for decentralized finance that provides access to top lending protocols in the Ethereum ecosystem. With support from protocols such as Aave, Maker, Compound, Spark, Liquidity, and MorphoBlue, and features such as one-transaction leverage management, collateral and debt swaps, protocol shifts, and various automation features, it aims to make management of your on-chain positions much easier. Check it out at defisaver.com. But speaking about the user-facing wallet that, most people know as Safe, the multi-sig that most DAOs use, and like I mentioned before, has about 100 billion of assets. I think that's it's so interesting that Safe itself has just become an integral part of DAOs. It's like I think over 90% of DAOs use it to secure their funds, and there's a lot of funds being secured. So, how are these funds being kept safe by Safe?
DAOs is one example that Safe has quite some adoption with, and that's because of the programmable nature of smart accounts. So Safe, you can start as a team. You're like a bunch of people that come together and you want to build a new project. And you have a multi-signature wallet to start with because you're managing some assets, you're doing some payroll and so on. But then at some point you might transform the project into a DAO. You want to have more community involvement. Users should have a say on how the treasury is being managed, for example. And then you can reprogram your Safe to suddenly be controlled by not just like a handful of people, but like hundreds of thousands of people through, for example, a snapshot. There's a solution that then takes an outcome of a snapshot governance proposal and actually puts this on chain by an oracle and then triggers a transaction on a Safe. And that requires some programmability and that requires smart accounts. So that's why Safe has become such an important tool for most DAOs today, and also entire teams forming around leveraging this. So like Karpathy is one example. They specialize on building additional infrastructure around Safe and then providing this as a service to different DAOs to manage their treasuries. There's a bunch of teams then that leverage that Safe is this modular smart account, so you can create new plugins that then extend the functionality of it and optimize for certain use cases.
So those are the features that have enabled Safe to become this key piece of infrastructure for DAOs. What new features are you developing to, continue bringing this space forward?
I think one key theme for Safe going forward will be these L2s that really specializes in optimizing for account abstraction and being like a big part of that. Like, for example, the Optimism ecosystem is leaning into that quite heavily. Every new OP stack chain comes with the Safe Smart account pre-deployed on the chain, and this we can leverage then to create these like wallet-specific L2s or these account abstraction optimized L2s. Another key thing is then about connecting different networks. So that's there's like a whole like research topic around key store rollups. So that's a new thing that's coming up where you can connect L2s and have like one smart account actually that controls assets on a bunch of different L2s. And this is the first building block to then reach network abstraction and have networks completely abstracted away from users. Another focus area will be user experience improvement. So that's around passkeys, bringing that at scale, session keys, and just leverage the modularity of the Safe Smart account. And yeah, generally just supporting the ecosystem as, yeah, by now there's 200 projects building on Safe, and they all have different requirements on the core infrastructure. So that's like on the backend services that we also provide. So we have an API that we provide, and there's like like an event service that's being built out there. There's a bunch of things that are coming there as well.
Protocol 20 introduces Sorbonne, which is Stellar's cutting-edge smart contracts platform. This creates new surface area for innovation and provides new opportunities for developers to build protocols and products that create access to everyday financial services. So it means a gradual increase in transaction capacity and a chance to fine-tune applications. And it's the most transformative upgrade to the Stellar network to date. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's pretty exciting stuff. I'm wondering, just as a user myself, in the past for our Infinite Machine NFT project, where we did use a Safe multisig, and we used to have a small team kind of managing the community. Do you plan automated payments, like sort of like a payroll functionality?
Probably not Safe Wallet, the front end, but there are projects like in Actual that also builds on Safe that specialize just on invoicing and payroll. So we would urge you to check that out.
Nice. Okay. Cool. I mean, passkeys, the network abstraction, that's definitely going to be key going forward to simplify user experience for Web3. Definitely still in the early stages of building Web3 and building crypto. It's still a pain to use, and I've seen lots of takes on crypto Twitter being like, if you're still saying that crypto is hard to use, you haven't used crypto. But I mean, I do use it, and it is definitely hard. Like, I think we've maybe, we're used to it, and it's not like as big of a pain as it was before, because I know we've just, become accustomed to kind of the clunkiness. But that doesn't mean that it'll be okay for someone who's never actually experienced this type of process that you need to go through to use a dApp or to bridge or to take assets from one chain to another, etc. It is tough. So hopefully smart accounts make all of this easier.
I mean, it's always a good test on Christmas when you come together with the family and you get faced with the reality of, okay, maybe me and my friends understand this crypto stuff, but like people who have zero touch points, for them, it's still so far away.
Yeah, it is. I also wanted to ask about app-specific rollups. What does this look like? I saw this in one of your recent posts and was super curious about what you meant by this and how will this be developed?
I mean, app-specific rollups, that's something that's been a term for a while. So the idea that apps can have their own block space and have their own.
Right. I guess, sorry, I meant like for wallets specifically.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. That's.
And I think one of the themes that we will see in the next months play out is that wallets themselves may have their own rollups, because they also in a way like an application, and especially when we have better tooling around interactions cross-chain, like they can onboard their users to a rollup, and they can actually leverage that they control in a way the L2 themselves can shape it in a way that then provides the user experience they want to provide, be it by leveraging the sequencer to pay for gas fees, be it by optimizing the way that the L2 behaves in different ways. And I just see we will have wallets that are their own rollups, and that will be just interacting cross-chain with applications that themselves are rollups. So we completely modularize the ecosystem, and for users that's shouldn't sound complicated, because for the user it shouldn't matter at the end of the day, because they just interact with the wallet, and the wallet will have their own rollup under the hood. But that shouldn't matter.
But wouldn't it be hard for? I guess that can be abstracted, but would users' assets have to be bridged from whatever chain they're at to move to this specific rollup?
Not necessarily, because the wallet specific rollup, they just it's about starting the user interaction, and it's about having the authentication on this rollup. So be it like a multi-signature, be it some hierarchies that are part of your account, or some other logic, like that's part of the wallet specific rollup. But then the assets can be on any network, and the applications that you interact with on any network, and that's then you just start a transaction on one rollup, and you bridge that over to other networks, and you interact with different assets there.
Okay. So it's like a way to control the experience even further. The reason why you would have this like wallet specific rollup.
Yeah.
Got it. Then I like this overall vision of bringing kind of the next billion users on chain using smart accounts. What needs to happen? Like what are kind of the key? Are we still missing technical development for this? Is it kind of more UX based, like what you were saying? But yeah, for the next billion users to come, what are the key milestones you think Web3 still needs to reach?
Yeah, it's a bunch of what I talked about with like sponsored transactions and passkeys and these user experience improvements. But it's also how we're going to onboard people on chain. I think one of the next waves that will bring millions of users will come from centralized exchanges, offboarding, so to say, users on chain, so that they cannot do so with just saying like, here's the self-custodial wallet. You were used to having a login, but now we need to take care of your private key. That won't convince people to move, but they need something that actually is a bit more hand-holding users to interact on chain. And there, something that we believe in is the concept of hybrid custody, where you say you start off with a custodial setup. So you might have a centralized exchange that controls your digital assets, but then you make first steps on chain by having a wallet, which you might have still like a private key as a passkey that can sign transactions, but you might have the centralized exchange as a recovery mechanism or as a secondary signer as part of your wallet solution. And then this just enables that if you happen to lose your private key, it's not that big of a problem. You just go back to the centralized exchange, you log in with your credentials, and you can start a recovery process. But it allows users then to have the flexibility of Web3 without the scary part, without the key management issues that come along with regular wallets.
Super interesting. And in this future of billions of people using Web3, what role will wallets play? And I think the simple way of looking at wallets is, okay, a place to store assets, but I think we're seeing the emergence of wallets as something a lot even I don't know if bigger, but broader than just a place to keep your assets, right? Wallets have become the way that people access and interact with Web3 dApps. So I'd love kind of to get your thoughts on this. Like, what does the role of wallets look like in Web3?
I see the role of wallets in a way similar to the role of an operating system, for example, iOS, where you might have apps in the App Store that extend what they can do, but like the key part of the user experience is still shaped by the operating system. So wallets is usually your first starting point of the user interaction. That's where people see their assets. That's where people navigate to applications, or where they have maybe a way to interact with applications, be like a swap feature in MetaMask, for example, which is very natively part of the wallet user experience. And so therefore I see wallets becoming more of this unified home of interacting with Web3, rather than it being just a browser extension which just pops up at the end of the journey. It should be the beginning and the thing that goes along with your Web3 journey.
All right, and in this future where we have billions of people using Web3, onboarded, on-chain, where do you see SAFE in this kind of long-term vision? We've talked about how you want to enable a smart account for all Web3 users, but you can just expand on that vision, and also curious to see if it goes beyond Ethereum and EVM chains, if you want to be there for Web3 users wherever they are.
SAFE really should be the cross-chain account for the user. So that obviously starts with becoming like a primary account on one network and then connecting different networks. And probably SAFE should start there with having a focus on the EVM, because you can make certain optimizations there, especially around the key store rollup that achieve this network abstraction. But the technology itself can go beyond that. And so maybe it's not going to be the next 2 to 3 years. First, we need to really figure out how to make a good user experience cross-chain and how to achieve account abstraction on EVM. But long-term, it goes way beyond that, and it should become your unified cross-chain account, which brings the user a good peace of mind and a good user experience.
Awesome. Very ambitious long-term vision, but I mean, you've done amazingly so far. Obviously, becoming such a key part of the Ethereum and EVM ecosystem. I also wanted to point out, I think it's just really interesting how you've gone about your journey. I think it's been very different from most of crypto, which is more of like a Wild West sort of way of operating, and instead you took a much more measured approach, making the token non-transferable, setting these community-led milestones for it. So yeah, it's a different model of operating that's been really interesting to watch. So thanks so much, Lukas, for taking the time to share with us all the recent developments and future plans for SAFE. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sue. Appreciate it as well.